You know, when you picture a home in Singapore, what's the first thing that comes to mind? For so long, it was probably a busy HDB flat, buzzing with multiple generations under one roof. But that classic picture is really starting to change. A new one is taking its place. A single person turning the key to their own front door, to a space that's 100% theirs.
And we're not talking about a rare exception here. This is a major demographic shift. As of today, a pretty staggering 16.1% of all households in Singapore are just one person. Let that sink in for a second. That's nearly 1 out of every 6 homes.
Okay, so let's dig into this because what's truly incredible is just how fast this has all happened. If you rewind just 10 years, that number was 11.2%. So jumping all the way to over 16% today, well, it shows this isn't just a slow, gradual trend. This thing is accelerating. And that, of course, brings up the big question, the one we're really going to get into in this explainer. What's it actually like? I mean, beyond all the charts and numbers, what are the financial, the social, and the personal realities of deciding to go it alone here?
All right, let's start with the most obvious question. Why? Why is this happening now? What's really driving this huge surge in people choosing to live by themselves?
Well, it seems to boil down to 3 big forces all hitting at once. First, you've got this cultural shift toward individualism, putting your career and personal freedom first. Second, and this is a big one, is the simple cost of starting a family. And third, a lot of people just describe the whole modern dating scene as, well, exhausting. So singlehood starts looking like a much more peaceful option. And this is about more than just practical choices. It's about a deep shift in attitude. It really wasn't that long ago that being single, especially past a certain age, came with a real social stigma. But today, that's faded a lot. Polls show that over 70% of young Singaporeans are now perfectly fine with being single. It's just another valid lifestyle choice. But okay, choosing this path means you immediately run into a pretty big wall, and it's the first one everybody thinks about: the money. So what does this independence actually cost? The monthly budget really lays it all out. And rent? Rent is the big monster. If you're on a tight budget, maybe just renting a room, you could get by on around $1,800 a month for everything. But if you want the privacy of your very own studio apartment, that number can easily shoot past $5,000. That is a massive difference. So this leads every single person to the great debate. Do you rent or do you buy? Renting is great for flexibility. You can move around, lower upfront cost, but you're not building any wealth. It's just gone. Buying, on the other hand, gives you that stability, an actual asset, but it also means a huge down payment and a long-term mortgage, all on one person's salary. It's a really tough call. Faced with those 2 options, a whole lot of people take a third route. You could call it the parental subsidy. It's the classic trade-off, right? You save an absolute fortune by living at home, but you give up your privacy, your autonomy. For some people, though, the choice is easy. They'll happily pay rent just, as one person put it, to protect their sanity. Now, for those who do decide to buy, getting the finances in order is really just the first part of the puzzle. There's another whole layer you have to figure out, the very specific and sometimes complicated rules for buying a home as a single person. Yeah. If you want to buy public housing by yourself, you've got to run what some might call the eligibility gauntlet. First up, the age barrier. You have to be at least 35. Second, the income ceiling. For a new BTO flat, your salary can't be more than $7,000 a month. And third, you've got to be a Singapore citizen. Those are the 3 big gates you have to pass through. But here's where things get really interesting. A massive policy change is coming, and it's totally rewriting the rules. For years, singles could only buy new, smaller flats in what are called non-mature estates, further from the city center. But starting in late 2024, that restriction is just gone. Singles will be able to apply for these flats in any location, and that includes these super popular, super central, prime areas. Honestly, this is a huge game changer. Okay, so we've covered the money. We've covered the rules. But what about the actual lived day-to-day experience? Let's talk about the emotional side of it all. The incredible freedom versus what some have started calling the single tax. The biggest plus, the one you hear about all the time, is the freedom. It's that simple. Pure, simple, absolute freedom. You get to live completely on your own terms. Your schedule is your own. Your space is your own private sanctuary, a retreat from the rest of the world. But as we all know, there is a flip side to everything. That amazing freedom, it comes with 100% of the responsibility. That personal growth you experience, it comes from a very steep and sometimes pretty lonely learning curve. I mean, when something breaks or a bill is due, there's no one else to turn to. It's all on you.
And that right there is the heart of this so-called single tax. It isn't just about money. It's about carrying the full weight of everything. The finances, the chores, the mental load. It's the vulnerability of getting really sick and having no one there to help. And for some, it's that deeper, nagging fear of, well, dying alone at home.
So you've got the high cost on one side and the potential for loneliness on the other. It's no surprise that a new model has popped up that tries to solve both of these problems at once. So let's take a look at the rise of co-living. The question co-living is trying to answer is pretty simple, really. Is there a middle ground? Is there some kind of third way that gives you the independence of moving out, but with the built-in community of a shared house, and without all the downsides of each? And when you break it down, co-living offers a pretty neat package compared to a traditional rental. Instead of juggling 10 different bills, you get one all-inclusive price. Instead of feeling isolated, you get a community right out of the box. And instead of getting locked into a rigid lease, you get a lot more flexibility. It's like it was specifically designed to tackle the two biggest headaches for singles: money stress and loneliness. So really, co-living is selling something much bigger than just a room with a bed. It's offering a plug-and-play lifestyle. The real product here is an instant, affordable, and social solution, packaged perfectly for busy professionals who just don't have the time or energy to build it all from scratch themselves. Which brings us to our final and maybe most important question for the future. As living alone becomes such a normal part of Singaporean society, is that 35-year-old age rule for buying an HDB flat just an outdated barrier that's holding people back? Or is it still a necessary safeguard for a society that has always put the family unit first? That is the big question Singapore will have to answer as it gets used to its new identity as a state of solos.